Slide cameras.
All right, we're live.
We're now live. And welcome anybody who's listening a few minutes early to the Live from Nepal, the wrap-up Hangout on air to Ulyana Sherpa Science Initiative expedition. Got some pictures, we hope, that Ulyana and her team of Sherpas and scientists will be talking to. It should be 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time when we start the broadcast for real, which is 7:45 in the evening Nepal time. And I believe it's the last day or the last but one day that Uli and her team will be in Nepal. If you're watching from Europe, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you're watching in Australia, it's midnight on the east coast of Australia. And this is Citizen Science Live Hangout, Science in the Wild. If you have questions, CrowdCloudLive is our hashtag to send in live questions. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. And last time when we did this at the beginning of the expedition, we certainly lost the signal, but Uli and her team managed to reconnect. While that happens, we'll show you some videos of their amazing adventures and try and reestablish the signal. The internet is not always reliable back in Kathmandu where they're uploading from, but we're hoping for the best. So with us today is going to be Dr. Skittles, Patrick Rowe, who's the science tech on the expedition, and a large number of Sherpas, of whom Sonam Sherpa is one of them. He's been with the expedition right the way through. And Benjamin Pothier, a French filmmaker who's working with us to record the expedition. So we'll be going truly live in about 3 minutes. And let's see if Uli and the team are still live there in Nepal. They seem to be a little frozen, but talk to me, Uli. The signal seems to have gotten a little garbaged, to use the technical term. We're hoping it'll clear up by the time.
Okay now?
I can hear you with a little bit of an echo, but it's a better signal now. It's sort of like stop motion video. Speak to me, Uli. And indeed it is frozen. So I'm going to put up the please stand by sign for a moment. This is Jeff Hainstyles. I'm the writer, producer of the Crowd and Cloud series. And we're really pleased to have you with us for a Live from Nepal event. The signal is going to be a little bit intermittent. Uli will be reconnecting periodically to make things as secure as possible. We'll be talking through what we understand of the science until she reconnects. So please stand by. And we should be ready to start the broadcast in about 3 minutes, I believe. This is what's called living dangerously. Starting a broadcast with the remote site not yet reconnected, but we have high hopes. And I see Uli's logo is there. So we will hope that she will be back live with audio and video in just a second.
All right, can you hear us now?
Yes. I'm crossing my fingers. I don't know if you can see me crossing my fingers, but I can see you crossing your fingers there. The signal looks a little more secure than it was before, but I'm touching wood while I'm crossing my fingers and doing everything else. I'd throw salt over my shoulder, but I don't have any salt to throw over my shoulder. Well, my laptop says it's 10 a.m. My cell phone says it's 9:58. I don't know. Which could possibly be more correct? What time is it in Nepal, Uli?
7:42 right now.
So 3 minutes until we'll say that we're really, really live.
Okay.
That's great. So viewers, those of you out in YouTube land, this time with a bit better bandwidth, we're hoping that we can show you some of the pictures, the maps, expedition maps that Fly Over Country, another NSF-supported project, has been doing for us. And that's been some pretty amazing work in which the devices, the GPS devices that Uli and her team have been carrying, have been uploading their coordinates automatically to Fly Over Country, so that you can track the expedition's travels right the way from Kathmandu up to 18,000 feet, which Uli and team are going to talk about, and back down again, back to Nepal, back to Kathmandu, I mean. So 1 minute to the actual broadcast. I'm going to put up the main slate again. And you see the brackets that say "we hope," the parenthesis that says "we hope." When you do these kind of live events, you always have to have a certain amount of contingency, a certain amount of paranoia. And if we lose the signal, as I said before, we will be trying to reconnect. And Uli and her team will be doing their very best there to join us up again. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to go over to Uli in Kathmandu and say, Uli, tell us where you are and who's with you.
All right, can you hear us now? Is it coming through?
It's coming through, and you are live to YouTube and to the YouTube universe. So tell us who's with you and the status of the expedition.
Yeah, so my name is Ulyana, the head of this expedition, and I'm going to go around the table to introduce everyone, and I'll move this computer slowly. So we've got Benjamin here, who is filming. We have Kathmandu Sherpa, who owns the Pass Resort, and just be based out of. We have we've got Tenzing Sherpa, who is up in Gokyo, the other village on the other side of Nongzimpa Glacier. We've got Sonam Sherpa, who's Kathmandu Sherpa's son, and we hope to get him on a future trip. We have Sonam Sherpa, who was part of our expedition this go-around. Pemadiki Sherpa. Hi. We worked together a few years ago. And then Patrick Rowe, the science technician.
Hello.
Hey, Patrick. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Uli has pushed the laptop over so we can see you fully in the picture.
Okay, does that work better?
That works better. So tell us, how many more days are you guys going to be there in Kathmandu?
Yeah, so I'm going to be leaving on Tuesday, and then Benjamin Wednesday, or Patrick Wednesday, and Benjamin Thursday. So just a few more days. We're basically just relaxing and having some recharge time after our time up in the mountains here in Kathmandu.
So
it's much hotter.
That's good. I'm going to try something. We're going to have you talk through your travels using the Fly Over Country map to show where you've been going on the trip. So I'm going to start the screen share, and hopefully this is going to be Ulyana Horodyskyj. That's how you spell her name. Horodyskyj, I think, is more or less correct. And she's going to tell us about the expedition. They started off in Kathmandu, and it's the Sherpa Science initiative. And Uli, this is more or less how things began, with the green dots that you see to the left of your screen being Kathmandu. Tell us about your travels, how many miles you've gone, and how you got from place to place.
Sure. So yeah, we landed in Kathmandu about 3.5 weeks ago, and then took this amazing mountain flight to a small mountain village called Lukla. I guess it's considered one of the world's most dangerous airports. Very short runway on a cliff, and it's inclined at around 10–12%. And from there, it's all walking. So we had porters that we hired to help carry all the scientific gear from village to village. And that included from Lukla to Manjo, Namche, Dole, Machermo, Tagnak, where Lakpa is, Gokyo, where Tenzing is. And all that took about 6 to 7 days so that you acclimatize properly to the increasing altitude. So we went from about 9,500 feet to about 15,700 feet in Gokyo. And then myself, Benjamin, Sonam, and Gelu, who's he lives in Lukla, so he can't be here with us tonight. We then made our way up to 18,000 feet to basically where we can see the ice falls of Choyoyu, the 6th highest peak in the world and the source of the Nongzimpa Glacier, and it's near the Tibetan border. And it's that small piece of white ice you see those little red dots on. That's where we finally ended up. And then took about only 3 days to get all the way back down to Lukla, and then we just flew back a couple days ago, and Patrick just flew back actually yesterday. We had a really lucky break in the weather because it's been raining all day today and there's been no flights.
That's great. So if you're seeing the same picture that I'm seeing, there are 2 red dots bracketing a blue dot, and is that the highest point that your expedition reached? If you're seeing the same picture
Yeah, I did have live tracking on, and I don't see why, what happened for it not to have shown up, but those points, the red points at least, are messages. And so that last red dot was our high point of about 5,500 meters, 18,000 feet on that nice, small, clean ice glacier.
Okay, we're going to go back and talk about the highest part that you got to and what the science was that you were doing up there. But if you're seeing the same picture that I'm seeing, we can see the glacier and we can see the lakes on top of the glaciers. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what the science was that you were trying to do there? And then I've got some slides showing you, Patrick, and the Sherpa working on the ROVs. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a little bit for you to tell us about the science that you are doing up on the glacier.
Yeah, so the lower part of the glacier, you have what's called supraglacial lakes. So these are forming on the surface of the glacier. We've been tracking them since 2011 and watching them expanding in area and deepening. And we've done this by hand in the past with kayaks and sonar systems. And Patrick came up with this awesome unmanned surface vessel so that we could remote control it from shore and make it a lot safer for us as a scientist and Sherpas working on the research. Our basic idea is to create 3-dimensional models of these lake floors, and we're looking for spots that are deepening. And not only that, we can look and see if it's rock, ice, or mud underneath there. And then create those maps and look for spots that in the future may be a hazard. The real problem in this area are these glacial lake outburst floods, and that's why we're doing our work, is we really want to prevent that from happening. We want to understand the physics of how these lakes are forming and changing with time.
So if you're seeing the same picture that I hope our audience is seeing, you can see a lot of gray-looking ice carving into the lakes. The lakes look pretty gray. What makes the lakes gray when the sky is so blue?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so this is really heavily debris covered glacier. So you might have anywhere from a few centimeters to a meter of rock covering the ice underneath. And so the gray color there is actually, there's so much dirt falling into the water. And we actually have collected water samples in the past for chemistry. So it's things like silica, aluminum, iron, things you would expect from dirt is in the water. And then you have also these beautiful blue lakes. And those are standalone lakes that don't really have any, like that, exactly that picture there. The particles are so fine, it's glacial flour. And so they are completely cut off from any kind of tunnels, ice caves, and they are some of the clearest lakes on the glacier. And that's where we were able to put in an ROV, a remote operated vehicle, underwater to actually take a look at what's on the bottom of the lake for the first time, which is really, really cool. And Patrick can speak more to that a bit later.
Well, actually, I was just about to switch to Patrick. So Patrick, there you are at the beginning of the expedition, looking mightily happy. I'm going to come to you live on camera so people get to know your smiling face, but then we'd like to come back and have you explain a little bit about the weather station that you guys left and how the Sherpa get involved. So if you guys can move you've already done it, you've moved the camera around to Patrick. Say hi, Patrick. What's your background? What's Midwest ROV? How did you get hooked up with Crazy Ulyana?
Well, talk a little bit about, I'll just go through the regular technology spiel. Science technician's job is to support scientists, and Ulyana came to me with problems. She says, I want to figure out how much water's in these lakes and what the bottom looks like and these things. So over time, we've developed several tools to do that. One being the unmanned surface vessel or unmanned sonar vessel, depending on what it is. It's more or less like a floating flatbed truck that's remote controlled. We can put any kind of sensor on there that we want, water temperature, turbidity, whatever. We just happen to put sonar on it this time, and we were able to repeat a survey that was done in 2014. But these lakes have changed since 2014. Some are bigger, some are smaller. So quantification of water when we get back will be a comparison of those lakes between 2014 and the current. Of course, with the earthquake last year, that kind of precluded any research being done up there because of the recovery part of that. Other things that we did this time, something new, we actually took a hydrophone up. We decided it would be really cool to maybe hear what the glacier sounds like. So we had headphones, we had recording device. Ben actually was able to adapt his recording device in and do some short recordings of what it sounds like when rocks fall from 50 meters up, and you hear them hit the water, then you hear them hit the rocks on the bottom. So it's a glacier is a very noisy thing in the water. So
that sounds great. So
also part of that was just one of the other tools that we used. We also had, what else were we using? Yeah, we used a lot of different things. Well, you had the spectrometer. Okay, the ROV.
Tell us about the instruments and the ROV that you're going to see in the next few stills. So just like Ulyana did, give us a guided tour of the pictures that you should be seeing on your laptop.
Okay, that's a picture of the weather station. Now, something interesting about the weather station, we only had one of them up there, and because of the earthquake, we kind of figured we'd lost a lot of data, because of the time difference in there. And our friends at Energizer with their lithium batteries proved to be one of the 2 recording devices that we had actually ran for 2 years.
Solar panel.
Yeah, and there was a solar panel.
No solar panel.
No solar panel, excuse me.
Okay.
We also had a camera up there. Of course, there was issues, that had issues. But we also got a bonus out of the deal. We recovered a camera we thought was permanently lost. So between the cameras and the weather stations, it's wind speed, temperature, barometric pressure is measured. So
tell us about the ROVs and how you got the Sherpa involved with driving the ROVs.
First day out, we kind of ran over to the little blue-green lake over just beyond Spillway Lake and kind of settled down in there. We put the USV in there because we wanted to survey that because we did that last time. And then after that was done, we started a little bit of training for the various Sherpa scientists that we had in Porters, and gave them the opportunity to drive the USV around. Some improvements that I made on there helped to see what we're actually seeing so that we knew we were getting good data. So I think this time around we have much better data than we had last time. The other thing is when it's powered by itself, it can draw a really straight line when you're towing it, or if there's a failure of the propulsion like we had in 2014, it does not track very well. But as it worked out, we got 80% under its own power, and then the last day we stripped it down because of a thruster failure, and we had 2 very good Sherpa paddling the raft, towing that. But this was a finger lake. It was off to the side. There was no exposed ice spaces. It was, our assessment was that it was relatively safe to put people in a boat. So it did 80% of the work or more on its own, and then the last part we chose to do that. And of course, when you take everything off of it, it gets a lot lighter and easier to carry too. So
Patrick, everybody knows about SUVs and they know about SVU if they watch television and crime shows, but you keep on talking about USVs. What's a USV? What's that acronym stand for?
I've already done it once. It actually stands for one of 2 things: unmanned surface vessel, and that's when it would be in the I can carry anything mode, instrument-wise, or in this particular case, USV was unmanned sonar vessel, because we were carrying a sonar package aboard.
And now hopefully you can see the side scan radar image that's up there. What is that image of, and what is that telling Uli, and how hard was it to get that kind of imagery?
Well, it's actually very easy because it's sound traveling through water, sonar. The center line is the track of the vessel or the USV. On either side is a right beam and a left beam of sound. It reflects off the bottom as it travels outbound and comes back and paints those pictures. Ulyana can better interpret the colors and the different things that you're seeing there. But you can see boulders, you can see shadows of boulders. We could determine how high they are. And this was a live display that we were actually transmitting. Yeah, we were transmitting back from the USV to shore so that we could monitor the quality. Now that's spanning on either side well over 100 feet on either side all the way to the bottom. And with a little bit of interpretation and using the mouse when you play it back, you can tell how deep. You can put your cursor over a point, it tells you how deep it is. It'll give you the lat long of that point, even though it's not under the USV. It's off to the side. We know distance and angle. We can calculate all that.
So it's perfectly to turn it over to Ulyana to give us a little bit more. I'm going to stop screen sharing and come to Ulyana. So if you could move the laptop over so we can talk to Ulyana. And then I'd like to bring in Sonam Sherpa and some of the Sherpa to talk about things. So Ulyana, just give us the wrap up to the science that Patrick introduced with the radar.
Yeah, so I would say that it was incredibly successful. The really cool thing that Patrick was able to do is on the USV, he put a camera. And so when we were controlling it from shore, we could actually see on the camera the image. And I'd be like, go closer to that wall, or go over that pass again, because I see a huge boulder down there, for example. Or I see a very bright signal return, which I know is ice. And so it allowed us to really be able to get a lot more detail than ever before and live, which was really cool. It was in real time. We could watch the screen. When I get back home, there's a special software I'm going to use to process all that data and create all the three-dimensional maps. So stand by for those results.
So tell us what the main purpose of measuring the glacial lakes is over the years. And indeed, let me just remember to say Cloud Live. There we go. Tweet your questions to Cloud Live, and hopefully the interaction with Ulyana will continue. But Ulyana, why have you gone back to the lakes over the years? What's the purpose of the Sherpa Science Initiative as far as the lakes are concerned?
Yeah, the end game here is really trying to assess geohazards. So glacial flooding, for example, for Lakpanudu who lives in Tagnak, or for Tenzing who lives in Goki, understand how the glacier lakes are changing, if there's any threat to the community, and how they can get involved in, for example, I taught Lakpa how to offload data from the weather station, and he'll be doing that in the future. Just really taking ownership of the data collection, and the skill set is amazing. I mean, what I've seen just over the past few weeks here, from when we started to where we ended, there's just a lot of confidence in this program in the future to continue these trainings and skill building.
Okay, so let's go over to Sonam Sherpa and to some of the Sherpa to have them tell us a little bit about their work with Uli and Patrick and Benjamin.
I'm gonna have them sit in my spot, so Sonam. Okay. Yep, you can sit here.
Hi there, welcome. Hi Sonam, how are you? So please tell us, from your perspective, the value of participating in this project and what you will be doing, you and your colleagues will be doing in the future until Uli and her team come back to Nepal next year and in the future.
So still I am learning from this project about the science technician and the different of this expedition and the other climbing expedition. So I learned this project from this project, about this glacier, then about the science technician, how to drive the USB, the board, then how to take the data, about that.
Not to mention the picture. Catherine.
There are some pictures that Benjamin sent that show you all helping with the rafts and setting up the weather station. I believe that's you right next to Uli. So who are the other Sherpa that are with you in that picture, if you're able to see that? Uli obviously is in the red cap. I think that's an Explorers Club cap. But who else is with you in that picture?
So one of the Nima, then one of the Tasi, then one of the
Dawa?
Dawa.
Yep. So Nima, Tenzing, and Dawa Sherpa, with all of us.
And that's you again, setting up the solar panels. How long should the solar panels continue to power this station? Well, I assume it's going to be powering it for a long time, but this is the unmanned vehicle, right? That's you wiring it up. What were you doing in this picture, Sonam?
So we're doing that the battery research.
Yeah. Setting up the panel.
Setting up the panel and battery recharge.
And this is you guys taking a break. What do you guys eat on the expedition? How many pounds of food do you take with you? Do you have to take water with you, or do you just melt the ice to create the water that you need to drink?
So what was the food? What kind of food?
Fried potato. Fried potato.
Fried potato, momo.
We eat the fried potatoes and momo, and hot Yeti.
Hot Yeti is a
Hot
special
Yeti.
drink from Lakpanudu's Lodge. That's orange and mango mix, or no, orange and lemon mix. I came up with very, very tasty drink.
That's great. I'm actually married to a woman of Mongolian descent, and I actually know what momo is. Why don't you tell the viewers that don't know what momo is, what momo is? What is momo?
Yak meat momo.
Dumpling.
Dumpling momo.
I have to say, from having tried yak meat, that it's a very tough kind of meat. But when you're up in the mountains, I think that you're very happy to have something hot, and I'm sure momo are wonderful. Talking about being up on the mountains, can we go back to Uli so that we can talk about the high point of the expedition, meaning when you got up to close to 18,000 feet?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sonam Sherpa. So I'm going to try and call up the map again, Uli, and some pictures of you guys getting close to the top of the mountain. So let's see if we can go down here. We've talked about the supraglacial lakes. Here are some shots again of the Sherpa working with you on some of the sensors. But these shots should take us back to what was happening. So this is from the 4th of June, Uli. Where were you on the 4th of June, and what was happening as you got close to the highest point of the expedition?
Yeah, so we had just done maybe 7 or 8 miles up the valley. We were going to be camping out at what's called the 6th Lake area to climb onto the high point of a glacier. And in the last half hour, we were in a snowstorm. But it wasn't like this nice dry grapple that we've experienced in the past. It was a very wet and big flakes. So we were absolutely soaked at this point. And so we basically just decided we're going to set up the tents right away in the storm. So Sonam got out the tent, the North Face tent. I set up my little mountain hardware one. We dove in, dried off, but the snow remained for about 3-4 hours. So we initially were going to scout out the route to the glacier because it's not the easiest approach, but we were just stormbound in the tent for a while. And then the next day we had a full 10 hours of getting to the glacier, doing the science. That's it, the glacier there. And setting up a station, making measurements, and then coming back down. So it was quite the, I also ended up carrying maybe 20 kilos of snow sample down. And then Sonam helped me filter that snow, and we could see the contaminants on the actual filter. It's about the size. So imagine a gallon size of snow, 5 of these bags, and then it comes down to the size of a quarter. That's it. And it weighs nothing compared to the 20 kilos of snow to process. That's how much snow you have to process to actually try to extract the pollution impact from dust or soot or black carbon. And what I'm doing in that picture there is I'm making measurements of how reflective that snow is. So the more dark particulates fall on it, the more it's going to absorb that solar radiation. So new snow should be about 90% reflective, but the more stuff you collect onto the surface that's dark. And this snow is actually very slushy underfoot. And it's, when we initially set up instruments to measure that reflectivity, is only in the 60 to 65% range. So quite low, it's melting quickly. The air temperature is also around 4.5 degrees Celsius, so quite warm for almost 18,000 feet. And then you can see Sonam there. He was climbing up amongst some of the more rotten ice in order to get to the fresh, clean snow higher on that glacier.
On backwards and forwards between a couple of the shots, Uli. This is the glacier that you're climbing up to get to the highest point. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Uli?
Yep, that's the glacier.
Okay.
And then the next slides show Sonam climbing amongst the rubble, rotten ice, and me making final measurements on the nice, clean, flat part of it.
So I wouldn't want to go by without giving you a chance to give a shout out to whoever was handling your hair conditioner as you were part of this expedition. But this is one of the more flattering shots of you which we have. What was happening at this point?
That was, I don't know, a selfie I decided to take in the tent because there was nothing else to do. I'd left all my books and music and other stuff lower down the valley. But actually it is a shout out to Avita because I use their dry shampoo, and Avita donates proceeds from any purchases to Nepal charities, which I think is awesome.
That is great. We have a thank you slide at the end to all of the folks that help make things possible. But let's have another serious science conversation. Uli, you were looking to see how pollution was affecting the melting of the glaciers. So when you're at the highest point and you're looking back down on these glaciers, what effects do you see of pollution from elsewhere around the world, from down on the Indian subcontinent, and how is that affecting change on the glaciers?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is in that photo, at least the one where you see me making the measurement, it looks so clean to the eye. But once I started to take sample and put it in the bag, and then when we finally filtered, it was incredible how dirty it actually was. And but the analogy I like to use, it's like my face, there's sun damage. Sometimes you could see it in the form of freckles, which might be the dirt, but there's a lot more damage that's hidden. So you can think about the glacier the same way. You have these tiny nano-sized particles of black carbon that's destroying this glacier by melting it faster than it otherwise would. And for this glacier in particular, we can use a computer model to actually track back where the winds came from. And so once I get back home, I'll be able to process what the winds were when the time we were up there on the glacier, and look at the long-term wind patterns to figure out where that pollution came from. And then we also have a wind station set up there that's going to give us direction and speed throughout the whole melting season until the end of September.
That's great. Well, we've had 25 minutes of and I'm touching wood, I'm saying that, and keeping my fingers crossed just like you all are at that end as well. So now I'm going to show a video of you, I think, from the top of that expedition. So let's see if we can get that glacier pan to play. And if we can't, we won't do it. That didn't seem to come right up. So let's see if we can get it to work. Nope, we won't do that. But we do actually have a question that's come in from YouTube. So I'm going to give up on that, or rather from Twitter. And the question is from Vanguard Divers. Just trying to get my email to refresh. And it's coming in right now. And the question is from Vanguard Divers: how did the first Sherpa scientists enjoy driving the open ROV? So that would be a question for one of the Sherpas. How did the Sherpas enjoy driving the open ROV?
So the USV and the underwater one. This is Lakpanuru Sherpa.
Hello.
Good morning.
I'm Lakpanuru. The launch owner from the behind the glacier. Yeah, I made the Ulyana since 2011, and Patrick from 2 years ago. And we enjoy a lot with them, and we are very happy to meet them. And so I learned a lot of things from them, and how to fix how to connect to fix the solar between the battery and connection everything. And also very competent. I'm living behind the glacier, and before I met them, I'm a little bit worried because of the glacier. I thought the glacier is moving very fast into my lot, but now I'm confident. Now I feel I'm safe because Uli and the other scientists, the glacier scientists, told me. And so the glacier, my lodge site is very unstable. So I'm more confident, and so now I am safe to my site. And so that's.
What did you think about the underwater?
The robot, about the robot, it's very interesting. And also we get a chance to learn from the Patrick and Ulyana. And so it's really interesting. The robots go into the water, and I never saw this before. And so we enjoy a lot because they teach us how to control the remote, and so how to pull the robot into the water, and how to come up to the robot. And also the weather station is very interesting, and we pick with them the weather stations, and yeah, it's everything.
That's great. Thank you very much, Lakwa Sherpa. Keep those questions coming in. We've talked a lot about the science of the expedition, but I do have to make sure that we talk a little bit about the fun that the team had as well. And so we're going to go over to have Patrick talk a little bit about some of the fun that they had. And this is Patrick doing some of his very hard work during the course of the expedition. Let's see if I can find the picture of Patrick that we wanted to show at this point. Where is Patrick? Patrick.
I am right here.
Oh, no, I'm not.
But we're going to go to the rubber ducky race, if I can convince YouTube to actually show the right picture there. But there's a picture of Patrick relaxing after a hard day's work on the job. Here we go. Here's
Not that.
So there's Patrick after a hard day's work. But this is, I think, Sonam and Uli on the lake about to set up for an Olympics heat of a rubber ducky race. So we're going to try and see if YouTube will let us show that particular video. Let's see if we can do the rubber ducky race. Come on, YouTube. We have it queued up, ready to go.
Play.
That's Uli running in an earlier video. Let's see if we can see the glacier pan. Well, let's come back to here over and see if that will help set up the YouTube to play. And I'm afraid it is not working. So Patrick, describe what it was like to, what's the rubber ducky race? How could you possibly have a rubber duck race in the middle of a science expedition?
Well, you know, I've always defined, you know, like when I spent time in Antarctica, I says, you know, what is fun? Fun is anything that you would normally do, but in a very unusual place. Well, here we are, you know, over 15,000 feet, and Ulyana has done this a couple of times before. Like we are not a major grant recipient or anything in that, the funding that we have for Sherpa Scientist Initiative and other initiatives comes through fundraisers, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, donations from companies, things like that. So this year's race was kind of unique because in the past, we use different places where there's moving water. You release the ducks, like release the hounds, and shortly thereafter, somebody wins. There's usually a first, second, third, fourth place. This year was kind of unique because we didn't go over to the true spillway because it is, yeah, it's rapids, and it was not the nicest thing. Yeah. So anyway, this year we had about a meter height difference between a finger lake that was on the one side of the moraine, some moraine on one side, and spillway. So this 1 meter water transitioned in about a 30 meter channel. So Lakpa volunteered to be our official duck launcher. So we divided the ducks up and we ran them in a heat format. So he would stand there, throw a group of ducks in the water. Ulyana and Sonam were at the other end, and they would see who came through first in each one. So we ran 8 heats, or 7 heats, was it? 8 heats. The winner of each one of those all got put into a group of 8, and the Lakpa threw the last group in, and then they had a first, second, and third out of that. So so it was officiated by a large number of people witnessing which ducks were being pulled out first, second, and third, and so it was a very, very fair race. And I can guarantee you Laka has absolutely no interest in the winning or losing of the race. So he was a very fair duck launcher this year. So that was the first part.
Ulyana, why don't you tell us about the medals that you could see you giving out on Instagram? And why don't you also tell us about how this expedition was different and being shared by Crowd and Cloud, by Science in the Wild, on all the social media channels, so that people that have been following you could really follow along on the expedition and see you, for example, giving out medals for the winners of the 2016 Rubber Ducky Olympics.
Yeah, so the medals were custom made. So Science in the Wild colors are white, black, and red. And so we had the ribbons and gold, silver, and bronze that we gave to the winners of the duck race. And then we also had shot put, javelin, and a relay race for the Sherpas to compete in. I tried competing, but it was miserable. I could barely throw a rock for the shot put. But we had a lot of fun. And I think what was so cool about having been involved with Flyover and Crowd and Cloud is that I felt so well connected to people back home. Family and friends could watch. And then Science in the Wild since has grown to 13,000 followers. So it's just a really neat way for people who may never get the chance to come up here to at least live vicariously through the expedition on the one hand, and on the other hand, encourage people who may not have been sure about coming on this kind of trip to maybe come along on a future one, to see what we're about, to see that, you know, we do serious science, but we also have a lot of fun. And we work with local people. It's a huge opportunity for us to partner, and it's so important.
Well, one of the big themes that has come up on Twitter and on our various social media pages has been the role of women in science, and women leading, and I guess you could say summiting literally at the peak of this expedition. Is for you, is the sky the limit? Do you see any limits for women in science today?
Absolutely not. And I have Pema Dickey Sherpa here with me, amazing woman who's climbed the 7 summits of the world as part of an all-women's Nepali team, who I know is really excited to talk to you about some of what she's been up to. And we worked together back in 2012, you know, and have kept our friendship alive. And we're really looking forward to working together in the future. So if I could bring her out.
Just pan the laptop slowly so that we can try and keep the connection.
We have a device because the light's good.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
And Benjamin, we'll try and get to you in a little bit, although I've used some of your pictures over the Patrick video as well. So anyway.
Yeah, if you wait in order a lot. Okay.
Pema Dickey, very pleased to meet you. Thank you for being part of this. So you've been to all 7 summits?
Yeah.
That's
I finished it last 20.
How many female Sherpa support expeditions?
It's not only the Sherpas, it's all the women, very inclusive women from different parts of Nepal. We are 7 in total.
What is the trend? Are there more and more female Sherpa getting involved in supporting expeditions and things like the Sherpa Science Initiative?
Yes.
That's good to know. What do you see as the unique thing that Patrick and Ulyana bring to expeditions that are different, for example, from those expeditions that are just climbing, just want to get to the summits? How is the science different in the Sherpa Science Initiative?
It's different, and which is really important, because being as a mountaineer, I involved in mountaineering field in this adventure since 2007, and from there till now, when I go, always go to mountain area, then I saw a lot of changes in Himalayas. So I can see lots of glaciers, and not only here in Nepal, all over the world, wherever I go, there are lots of changes in Himalayas or in mountain region, where there are newly formed lots of lakes and glaciers, which may result a bad effect for the people who lives around. Or yeah, that's why it's really important to what Patrick and Ulyana is doing, so that they can teach to the other people like me and other, like Shonam and other people who can get lots of knowledge, information, and we can share these things to other people as well, so that we can reduce at least this kind of problem in future, or we can do something to help ourselves. So I really feel thankful to them.
Well, that is perfect. The internet obviously allows communication at the speed of light, but you've actually just answered a question that came in through the YouTube channel. So it must have been instantly transmitted to your brain because you've just answered the question about what physical changes there are. So thank you very much for that. That was a very eloquent statement and was excellent. So that's a question from the YouTube live feed answered before I actually passed it on to you. So that is perfect. Ulyana, we're probably coming to the end of this I don't want to say successful connection because that would jeopardize things, but I did want to call out some thanks to people that have helped make your expedition possible. And I'm going to call up a slide that says thanks to a number of people that we, Crowd and Cloud, are saying thanks to, and that's the National Science Foundation that sponsors Crowd and Cloud and also sponsors Flyover Country. Science in the Wild is your organization, obviously. Midwest ROV is Patrick. Open ROV supplied the robots. Planet Labs has been providing real-time satellite information to you. Who else should we thank, Ulyana, as part of wrapping up this expedition and this live hangout?
I would like to say thank you to everyone who's present here who made this possible, and the country of Nepal. I mean, for being so welcoming, and we hope that, again, this is the start of something great and that the Sherpa Scientist Initiative is only going to continue to grow in the future.
Well, that's a perfect link to saying that it's certainly not over as far as Crowd and Cloud is concerned, because we've had Patrick and sending back information, and he's going to be bringing back some of the footage that Ben has taken for us and for French news media. Ben, why don't you talk about, if you can see the slides, a little bit of some of the high points of the imagery that you've been able to capture and that will be part of the Crowd and Cloud series when we go live on public television early in 2017. So hopefully you can see the picture of you guys setting up in what I assume is the same snowstorm that Ulyana talked about. Benjamin, tell us about some of the high points of the filmmaking.
Yeah, all right. Typically, this slide about the snowstorm, we went through like 6 hours of work, if I'm correct. I was like very tired. Snow started, and suddenly I was with Kelu, and I realized that we just reached all the part of the group, and they were actually building the shelter. So for me, that was really the only moment I went scared for 1 minute during the whole ride. So that's really a good souvenir for me, basically.
Okay, so some of the other scenes that that you guys sent back pictures of are more typical scenery. What are we seeing here, Benjamin?
That's, if I'm correct, that's a Sami stone. Mani stone. It's stone which are carved and painted, and you are supposed to pass them from the left to get good luck. And yes, okay, right. And I particularly really like that type of art and craft, which is very vernacular and very beautiful. It's completely part of the nature of the landscape, and really I totally during the trek.
Well, that's perfect. So I think that we should draw this to a close. We said we were going to go for 30 minutes. We've gone to nearly 45 minutes, and I think we've kept connection all the way through. So if you guys could move the laptop so we can see everybody who's been part of this Live from Nepal experience. I know we would like to say on behalf of all the Crowd and the Cloud team, the social media team that have been following along, the Flyover Country folks that have been so excited to get the automatic messages coming through. Good luck for your last few days in Nepal. We look forward to seeing the science results. We look forward to seeing all the footage that is coming back. And we just want to say thank you. Congratulations on a successful expedition. And namaste. Thank you so much from Crowd and Cloud. for being part of this experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
And I am going to close the broadcast. So thanks to everybody who is watching along on YouTube. I think this time we will do an edited chunk of this broadcast, rolling in some of the videos that we couldn't see, including the rubber duck race and, of course, some of the science results. Thank you very much. And I'm going to close the live broadcast by saying you can follow along with all of our social media activities on crowdandcloud.org, crowdandcloud.org. We have activities going right the way through early 2017, when we'll be live on public television, on the World Channel, and on PBS stations in April of next year. Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody in Nepal and who made the connections possible. Over and out.